Hey, we are the Lab Doctors. I'm Amanda.
I'm Dorothy.
And I'm Zhao Yong.
We are biomedical researchers who realized we still have a lot to learn about science.
So why not join us on this quest?
Hey everyone, welcome back to the Lab Doctors podcast. So today we're going to be talking about sugar.
Sugar, spice, and everything nice. These were the ingredients chosen to create a perfect little girls.
Specifically, artificial sweeteners.
And that's chemical X.
And the Powerpuff Girls were born using their ultimate superpowers, blossom, bubbles, and buttercup.
Okay, so if you haven't already, go listen to our episode, Are We Consuming Too Much Sugar? Where we talk about grading your favorite beverages.
Oh, right.
Yeah, and I kind of thought about this because we've been seeing a few drinks that have the grade, the Nutri-grade.
Really?
Yeah. They're appearing.
Yeah, so check that out. So that's sugars, but today we're going to be talking about artificial sweeteners.
Coke Zero?
So before we get into that, what do you think is the daily recommended sugar intake?
I feel like you should have covered that in the...
Like 4 teaspoons, right? Or something. 4 tablespoons or teaspoons.
Tablespoons.
Okay, so the recommended daily intake is about 10 teaspoons.
10.
So that's about 50 grams. But your tea or coffee that you maybe drink at the coffee shop, like if you get normal sweetness, is about 4 to 5 teaspoons. Bubble tea is about 9 teaspoons.
Percentage. What's the percentage?
90% of your recommended daily intake.
No. As in like, is that 100% sugar for...
Yes.
So that's at
full.
100.
Yeah, that's 100. And then carbonated drink around 7 teaspoons. So, I mean, all these are averages, of course. So 50 grams is the recommended. But then like if you have any metabolic issues or anything, they recommend to cut it by half. So 5 teaspoons. So don't forget that
Your food
also contains sugar. Okay, so what are some of the artificial sweeteners that you know of?
Aspartame.
Aspartame.
Stevia.
Okay, so stevia is a natural sweetener, not what we'll go into today. There used to be Coke stevia, but apparently did you know it has been discontinued?
Why?
Wasn't doing too well in the sales
I thought
department.
there was some health issue.
There's also asulfame potassium.
Yes, asulfame potassium or ACE-K for short. Like the 4 most common types are, as Zhao Yong said, aspartame, ACE-K, and then another 2 that are, maybe you've heard of them, saccharin and sucralose. So it's important to note that not all sweeteners are the same. So some are non-nutritive, meaning they have 0 or very low amount of calories. So it's not as straightforward as with most things. So do you know what is the sweetener used in Coke Zero?
Aspartame.
Yes, aspartame and ACE-K to be exact. So do you know how many more times the sweetness level is compared to sucrose?
I think 10.
5.
So it's 200 times.
Wait.
The same
Sweetness. Did you just say sweetness?
Yeah,
sweetness.
Oh.
Yeah, so like maybe at the same weight or something on the dose. So aspartame and ACE-K are 200 times the sweetness level compared to sucrose. So another common one is you've probably seen those equal packets, you know? It's like sugar substitutes, like in, you know, like usually when you serve tea or coffee, they have the white or brown sugar packets. Yeah, so that's also aspartame.
Oh. Okay.
Yeah, and then they have like a few different ones in the US that are either saccharin or sucralose. So let's talk a bit about how sweeteners work. So to do this, we're going to go back to primary school for a bit and think about the qualities of taste perceived by the tongue. So what are the 5 tastes?
Sweet, salty, bitter, sour,
And
Umami.
yes,
salty with extra steps.
it's different. Anyway, so do you remember that? I think we talked about this before. So the
We
figure of the tongue
Yeah.
and how that is wrong. So all taste can be perceived equally everywhere on the tongue. So people used to think that there were specific zones, but that has since been proven to be wrong. Generally, the sides of the tongue are more sensitive than the middle overall. Okay, so how do we taste sweet things? How do we taste sweet things? Like what happens when we eat something sugary?
Sugar binds to receptors.
Some G-coupled receptor.
Oh, G protein coupled receptors, yes.
Okay.
Oh, right. That's the
Okay,
food.
then what happens?
There's some pathway activated that to the nerve, to the brain.
So sweet is one of the 5 flavors that can be identified by human taste buds. So these consist of taste receptor cells, and the receptors on these cells are G protein coupled receptors.
Okay.
Essentially, different types of taste receptors are responsible for perception of various taste stimuli. So sweetness is conditioned by activation of the type 1 receptor. So when we eat something sweet like fruit, the fructose molecules will bind to the type 1 receptor and result in the stimulation of the G protein. This will trigger a cascade of reactions that stimulate receptors located on the afferent nerve fibers in our neural system. So that transports the taste signal from the taste receptor cells to the brain, and that's how we taste sweet things. So how do sweeteners work?
Bind to the same receptors.
Yes, simplistically, any molecules that bind to the appropriate sweet taste cell receptors will send a signal to your brain that this food is sweet. So artificial sweetener molecules are similar enough to sugar molecules, so fructose and sucrose. So when it lands on the receptors on your tongue, your brain is like, oh, this is sweet. However, they are generally different from sugar that your body does not break them down into calories, therefore rendering them as non-nutritive sweeteners. So you get the hit of the sweet stimuli that goes to your brain, but you don't break them down into calories. So why would that help?
Because you take in less sugar.
Less calorie.
Yeah.
Better for your health, supposedly.
But the sweetness is still kind of the same.
Okay, so the most obvious argument is that they have significantly less or even 0 calories compared to sugar. So that means a reduction in caloric intake.
Yay!
So this may be a helpful weight control strategy. Do you think it works? Artificial sweeteners in general.
Yeah, they should, right?
I would like to think
with
so.
respect
Like
to
nowadays,
weight.
I just order Coke Zero. Coke Zero is the aspartame one, right?
Yes.
And also asulfame K.
Okay, so to talk about weight control, right, let's talk about two things, appetite and the actual weight. So regarding appetite, there have been previous reports that artificial sweeteners may increase appetite and may promote weight gain. So one of the reasons for this is neurobiological. So as you may have experienced, consumption of sweet-tasting foods is a strong stimulus that activates the reward system. Have you ever felt that?
That means what? You want to eat more?
Oh no, you feel good after eating sweet foods.
I guess on a sad day, you want to eat something sweet.
So some studies have suggested that non-nutritive sweeteners only partially activate the food reward pathways, which may be due to the separation of the action of sweetness and energy value. So this means that artificial sweeteners taste sweet but lack calories. So they are thought to confuse the brain into still feeling hungry.
I disagree, but okay.
Yes. However, based on a recent meta-analysis of clinical trials and longitudinal studies, replacing sugar with these sweeteners does not appear to contribute to short or long-term compensatory energy intake, meaning you don't compensate like eat more or eat less.
Yeah.
Or there was one study that reported a change, but it's not significant enough to affect weight gain or weight loss.
Right.
Okay, so what do you think is the effect of artificial sweeteners on weight?
Well, it should help.
Yeah, you shouldn't gain so much weight.
Yeah, as opposed to like a sweet drink.
So initially, some observational studies and animal studies suggest a positive association between weight gain and artificial sweetener use. Whereas randomized controlled studies, if you remember, are the gold standard, report that artificial sweeteners may reduce body weight, fat mass, and waist circumference.
Okay.
Some RCTs also reported that replacing regular soft drinks with sugar-free versions can decrease BMI or body mass index by up to 1.7 points.
Oh.
So there was a meta-analysis published last year that looked at 20 studies, all RCTs, at least 4 weeks in duration, to compare the effect of these sweeteners on body weight. So these participants, like altogether there was about 2,914, included both like healthy weight participants and overweight and obese subjects. So they found no evidence suggesting that artificial sweetener consumption promotes weight gain, even in children or adolescents. And their data indicate that replacing sugar with these artificial sweeteners lead to weight reduction, which is particularly evident in adults, subjects who are overweight or obese, and those with no caloric restrictions. So the most obvious like changes in weight or like weight loss is in subjects who are overweight or obese and adults.
Right.
It's great.
That's why I figured.
Let's all take that instead. I'm convinced.
Are you overweight or obese though?
No, but like just the
She's an
thought.
adult.
Yeah,
Yeah.
she is an adult. Okay, so before we get into what we should do, so what do you think would be the other argument in favor of artificial sweeteners?
In favor?
Yeah.
Diabetes.
Yes, in the context of diabetes. So in theory, it should be
Better for diabetics if they want to consume sugar, which they
Why?
really shouldn't. Because you're not consuming sugar, you're consuming something that doesn't break down.
Is
So
it?
it shouldn't affect your blood glucose levels.
Yeah.
Yes, so artificial sweeteners should prevent the rise in blood glucose levels, which are typically observed after eating sugar or refined carbohydrates. And this was indeed reported in some studies, but there are some contradictory findings in other studies where drinking diet soda is associated with anywhere from 6 to 121% greater risk of developing diabetes.
Diet soda.
6 to 121.
Yeah, there were only 4 studies, so I'm like, this is wildly different.
Yeah.
So these studies are observational, so this is a huge caveat. So it's not causation, it's just association. To date, many controlled studies have showed that artificial sweeteners do not affect blood sugar or insulin levels. So here, the answer as to whether artificial sweeteners affect risk of diabetes in humans is inconclusive.
Right.
Oh, well,
So-
I'm still quite convinced.
Still convinced, yeah. I've never been unconvinced.
Every time we listen to something, we're convinced.
Those were the 2 main things I wanted to talk about, but I'll give you the abridged version of the rest of the effects. So a few decades ago, a lot of people believed that there was a link between artificial sweeteners and cancer risk based
Yeah.
on animal studies.
Yeah.
Have you heard of
Yeah.
this? So like apparently in mice that were fed a certain artificial sweetener, they developed cancer.
Yeah.
But since then, numerous human studies have reported no link to cancer risk. So it apparently has to do with the
Dosage.
difference in metabolism, and that sweetener that they gave, the mice metabolized it differently than how humans would.
Oh.
And so in mice, it would lead to cancer, but in humans, it doesn't.
Right.
So artificial sweeteners do, however, disrupt the balance of gut bacteria in some people, which could increase the risk of disease. But more studies need to be done.
Is that why I have GI issues? Should I go back to sugary?
Okay, so now we're reaching the conclusion you should not go back to sugary drinks. Generally, artificial sweeteners are safe to consume within the recommended amount, similar to sugar.
Right.
Like artificial sweeteners, yeah, it could disrupt the gut microbiome, but if you drink too much sugar, it's going to affect your body as
Then
well.
you just take Yakult lah, complimentary, and then you should be fine.
Maybe you should do an episode on Yakult. I heard that there is controversy.
Yeah, for sure. There's controversy on everything.
So it is important to note that consuming unhealthy food with added sweeteners does not make them healthy.
Yeah, of course.
They are just a better alternative. So they may be beneficial if you use them to decrease the amount of added sugar in your diet. So example, if you do drink Coke every day,
Yeah.
changing to Coke Zero is good.
Yes.
But if you don't drink Coke
At
every
all.
day at all, it's not okay to drink Coke Zero.
Every day. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So other than that, you may consider natural sweeteners. So like stevia.
Oh, okay.
There's a few different, like stevia is the most common. But then there's other things like xylitol or monk fruit extracts.
Right.
So these are not 0 calories. So I think that's a bit of like why the Coke stevia sales went like through the roof.
Yeah.
But actually stevia doesn't even have like a lot of calories compared to like other natural sweeteners. But basically they are low in calories, low in fructose, and they taste very sweet. So, and the good thing is that they are natural, so they are not as,
Foreign to your gut bacteria.
yes,
Okay.
like simplistically, not saying that all synthetic things are bad, just in this case. So 0 calories is not always better than low calories in that sense.
I guess. Yeah. Cool.
Coke Zero. I like Coke Zero
Yeah.
more than the normal Coke.
I actually like Pepsi more than Coke. Controversial take, but
Huh.
yeah.
But
I feel like they taste the same.
you don't
so-
see Pepsi around a lot anymore.
Yeah, as much.
Yeah.
And also, like, you don't see the 0 calorie version of Pepsi. What is it? Pepsi
Pepsi
Max.
Max or Black? I've seen both.
I think black.
Yeah, I've seen both.
I've seen both. Either case, like, you don't see that as often as Coke Zero. So, I mean, if I was gonna drink, I would drink Coke Zero rather than full on Pepsi. So,
But you should drink water instead.
no.
No, I want the sugar.
Yeah. I used to hate Coke Zero. I was like, this is nonsense. This is not Coke. They say it's the same Coke taste. It's not the same Coke taste. But then after that, I figured out like how much healthier it was. And I was like, yes, it tastes exactly the same.
Healthier from a standpoint of
Coke
sugar
versus-
and like
Coke
calories.
Zero. Yeah.
I wouldn't label Coke Zero a health drink, is my point.
It's Nutrigrade B, Amanda. It's Nutrigrade B.
Yeah, some fruit juices are Nutrigrade D.
Yeah, it's quite
Wait,
bad.
Coke Zero is grade what?
B.
B. That's not bad.
Yeah. I mean, A being water lah. So, I mean,
Yeah, when you don't have water, you drink Coke.
compared to fruit juices, don't drink fruit juice.
That was not the point of this episode. I would just like to go on record saying that.
And as usual, subscribe to our YouTube channel and follow us on Spotify. A like and a comment would really help us out.
You can also follow us on our social media, Instagram, Twitter, or Facebook, and feel free to DM us any questions.
Alternatively, you can email us at thelabdoctors@gmail.com. We'll post the links in the episode description so you can check that out if you're interested.
Bye.